5 o'clock. Thank you. I'd like to call the August 8th meeting of the Sumner County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Let the record show all members present. We have approval of the minutes of July 24, July of 2024. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. All in favor say aye. Aye. Both like sign, motion carries. We have approval of the agenda. Any changes? Seeing none, we'll let the agenda stand as written. I need to enter the meeting materials under the record. We have the zoning resolution. We have the staff presentation. And a regular meeting agenda and document. Let those be entered into the record. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. The first is Cal Mahaney, 2530 Long Hall Pike, Huntsville. And the other is Randy Crawford, 915 Harsh Lane in Cascade Springs. Is there any board member that would like to remove these items from the consent agenda? Staff? Is there any member of the audience that would like to discuss either one of these items? Seeing no one, I need a motion. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda and the items thereon. All in favor say aye. Aye. All like sign, motion carries. Due to the regular agenda, I'm going to what the representative for is item not here yet. So without objection, let's move to the additional item, number the resolution 2024-01, procedures for continuation of special exceptions. We've read this, we've talked about it. Sidney, do you need to have a public hearing?
No, this is just for internal procedures.
Any discussion on this resolution? A motion?
I'll make a motion. I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, an old business, Sumner County staff is requesting an interpretation for a use at 3549 Hartsville Pike, Sydney.
All right, this is regular agenda item number 1. This was deferred from last month's meeting where staff was requesting clarification of the use of the property at 3549 Hartsville Pike. Otherwise known as Highway 25. We just wanted to kind of parse out what is going on here, so we can kind of make a determination of how to proceed. So this is the special question. There's basically 2 tracts of property that are just slightly over 5 acres, totaling for 2.59 acres there. The initial request was for a pole barn in front of an existing pavilion. To the best of staff's knowledge, there's not a residence on the property, and so there were just some questions and some confusion in the process, and we just thought it best to bring it before the board to kind of parse out and determine what use classification would be most appropriate. Let's see, this was pictures from May of the pavilion, and that was June, and then this was taken last week. It looks like the existing pavilion is going to be closed as well. And then this is the portion to the right portion of the tract that's tract known as tract 12. And so these are some of the potential use classifications. You can see there's community, assembly small, medium, or large. The question was whether this would be considered a minimum impact facility, which would be something like a retreat. The other agenda item we have tonight falls in that use classification, for a wedding venue. And then here is the definition of a community assembly. It's basically any use of the property for social, religious, athletic, philanthropic, recreational purposes. And then again, kind of as we saw on the other screen, you can have the small with a limitation of 150 people, which can be done by right. A medium, which is 150 to 500, which requires additional approval by this board as a special exception, or a large assembly, which is greater than 500 people. Those can fall into religious facilities, or they can be civic, social, fraternal, and philanthropic. And so this was a little bit deeper dive into that, the community assembly there, specifically religious facilities, the retreat, which again is the wedding venue basically, or a temporary use, which is the board can set a time frame for temporary use that would be like outdoor concerts or something to that effect. And then here were some example motions. And this that were presented initially for the board to determine, is this going to be considered and then proposed to be used? And at the last meeting, it was deferred because there was a little bit more information requested at this meeting about the requesting a proposed plot plan that showed exactly what was going on that property. And there was just a couple things that were still left up in the air. And in your packets that were provided to you, that plot plan was included that showed the surveyed buildings that were in existence and where this structure was going to go in relationship to the property lines of the existing pavilion. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Does the board have any questions at this point, or can we move on to the public hearing? Okay, this is a public hearing. The only one that signed up is Pastor George Wallace. Sir, if you could come forward.
Yes, sir. It's on red now. Okay.
State your name for the record, please.
My name is George A. Wallace. I live at 215 Burnwood Lane, Lebanon, Tennessee.
Mr. Wallace, is there anything you care to add from the last meeting?
Yes, sir. Since we had the last meeting, we've had Mr. Richard Graves do the survey and the planning and all of this that you were asking us to do, and check on actually the facilities as far as the restrooms, and also outside potties will be used. It's not used for restrooms. He's also done the survey on everything, and he's going to be here to explain all of it to you and present it to you. If he makes it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He should have turned it already in. I haven't got a copy of it. But okay. Yes. He has presented everything you asked for, and that is the know keeps going back to the pole barn. That was in 2011. They were actually looking at a pole barn at that time. But COVID hit and everything stopped and they couldn't do anything, and that lasted for a long time. Then they decided, well, they'll go back with it and try it. And I think that the second time we presented another science building, I don't know, but that didn't hit either, it didn't work. Now then, we finally got to the position where we know for sure what it's going to be used for. It's just the outdoor pavilion for Christian activities and gospel singings and things like this. And then we have this building that we're wanting to build 20 by 40, and I presented that last time to you. And okay, and it's actually just for that outdoor pavilion meetings. Okay, so thank you.
Richard did look crazy here, but he did send a drawing and he each had a copy of it. I reviewed it, it looked like it answered most of my questions. It answered staff questions. The only thing that I will point out, and it's something may or may not be worthy of discussion, the parking area identified for this is shown as a grass parking area, not an all-weather or a gravel area. That you may want to discuss that. But that's really the only thing I saw. I was wondering, is there, what y'all are thinking about it? I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there anyone else here to speak to the request that they be in Glenville Road? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Discussion or motion?
Question. We're only supposed to identify, are we only supposed to identify the proposed use only with the motion? That's my question.
Well, I mean, this is originally coming as a clarification of use, but if you have any questions that you need answered or anything like that, or if there's some conditions or something that you want to talk about, then we can kind of review that in the motion to see if that tracks. Because I'm not asking for a special exception that would have conditional uses on it, but it would be, you could say, for example, this is a community assembly, that allows up to 150 people. If that exceeds that, then the expectation is this would come back before the board, which is, what's in the zoning resolution.
I guess the main thing that we're looking at, if the staff is comfortable with us as submitted, are there any requirements we need to, or stipulations we need to give to the staff for their review? If there aren't any, I think, what do you want, just a concurrence, Sydney, or?
Yeah, it kind of as we've gone through this process, again, the descriptions that we're given have changed and evolved and whatever. I feel like what we have been presented with in this last plan does clarify a lot of those initial questions. So that was really the end result that we were looking for through this process, is just getting a definitive, here's what we're doing, kind of business summary, which has been brought through this process. So
What I'm hearing is you really don't need a motion from us, if we don't have conditions. Just a concurrence with, the submittal. Is there any objection to a concurrent? Yes, John?
I don't want to object or anything, but I think, part of the point what Cindy was saying as well is, you know, there's a lot of confusion at the outset on this one is, what is it that they're doing? Like, how do we classify this? I think it kind of came down to two different possibilities. One of them was a retreat type use, which was a possibility as we first started learning about it. And the other was the community assembly. Based on the numbers they're giving us, it would be a small community assembly. And so if the board just reaches a consensus and then a vote on it would be great, that it's community assembly small or retreat or whatever, then it might, that'll tell us what to do next as far as the permitting process and get it closed out.
So we acknowledge this level as being a small
Community assembly.
community.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a question.
Thoughts?
After, if we give it the community, as a small community assembly, then you can add requirements. Like they can put gravel in the parking area. But
Right.
the-
Well, based on the community assembly use, we would basically go from there. They would need, Mr. Graves would need to get us a little bit more substantial site plan submittal. We would check against the requirements for site plans, things that are required for churches and stuff like that. For temporary type uses, there's some, we can work with folks on parking services and that kind of thing. So there may be some variability there where they don't have to come in and pay this parking lot or something like that at this time. But we will work through that process to make sure that they meet all the requirements. If they need a variance on anything or something like that, then it goes back here.
We have a motion of concurrence that this is a small assembly. And the staff has direction now. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Yes, sir, may I say something? This, you required us to have the 911 address, we got that, and
Yes,
also.
we did all that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, before I read it, I will, I'll state I worked with this request for quite a bit. I had no monetary interest in this project at all, but I will, state my, what I'm going to say in discussion and vote, but I won't carry out my duties here. Without objection. All right, next item on the agenda. Everton Campbell is requesting a special exception to operate an event venue or retreat in an existing structure at 1105, 1107, and 1109 Harsh Lane in Cascade Springs. Sydney.
All right, yes. So this particular property is 17.5 acres in size, and then the property owner is Everett Campbell, and this request will be presented by Richard Jones this evening. The request is for a special exception to operate an event venue, which is known as a retreat in our zoning resolution, from an existing structure. That structure is 41 feet from the property line. If it was a new building, then it would be required to be 50. And so they're asking for a deviation from that of 9 feet, for it to be at its current location, 41 feet from the property line, and they have installed a fence and have a landscape plan as well to provide some of that buffer requirements. The proposal is for what tracks basically with the zoning resolution with 299 guest maximum, with the proposed hours from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. This is located Harsh Lane, which is considered a collector road, and as such, a traffic study would not be required. Let's see. And then there is a image of the surrounding property, and then an aerial footage as well. There's quite a bit of farmland in that area. The proposed location is on the north side. You can kind of faintly see the outline of the barn there. And then there's a larger image of it. All right, this was the public notice that was in the paper, as well as the posted sign. This is the barn that is proposed to be used as the retreat site. You can see there no longer to the driveway there. And there's the front of the barn, and there's a small building in the back as well. There's the fence I had mentioned previously with some trees, small evergreen trees that have already been planted. And then this is basically how they're gonna break up the existing barn to convert it to the event venue. And this is the zoning resolution, use classification, where we get the minimal impact facility retreat. And then the standards for a retreat are found primarily in chapter 14 of the zoning resolution. And this is a notation of where the access should be by a paved public road, which this one is, and it further reiterates that the traffic analysis is not required for a road of this classification. And then the zoning resolution has about 29 different standards that says here's what we're looking for. And their engineer did a good job of lining up the requirements with what they're proposing. So you can see here that says the activities are limited to wedding parties and receptions with birthday, anniversary, retirement, and corporate gatherings for trainings. The total square footage is 4,500 of this where the assembly area is. And the floor plan we saw previously. And then you can kind of see, like I was talking about, the standard is the maximum allowed number of events per calendar year is 30. 299 is the max occupancy. And they're proposing 1 employee to be needed for opening and closing the buildings. The 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. They do not have any provisions for overnight accommodations. Restroom facility are provided and a septic system is installed. The building lighting is outside of the building with minimal outdoor event lighting utilized with less than 0.5-foot candles. Indoor sound amplification is proposed, and there's no temporary structures or tents, and no signage either. The parking layout was provided with the site plan, and they have provided on it the required number of spaces. And then another minimum standard is to have at least 15 acres to even come before this board to make this request. And they have that 17. Let's see. And then there were a couple of items that were included, you can see on the left of the screen, that were not quite addressed with the security and then how the trash, the location of the trash receptacles. This trash would typically be addressed on the site plan, which would be required as a follow-up if this use is granted. And then here are those parking calculations, and they would be required to have 100, and they are shown, they do have that 100. And here is the overall site plan. The barn is in light gray at the top of this, and you can see those evergreen shrubs and that fence there. And then the parking is all proposed to be in front. And then also on this separate tract over here around the house, And staff just had a few questions about, is the house going to be used as part of that, or parking will be around it, just kind of how that played out. And then that's the overall site. And then this is a little bit more detail about the setback deviation that they're requesting. And again, the requirement would be for 50 foot if it was a new building. Sometimes on these, we have allowed a little bit of a deviation for an existing structure if there are additional things in place like the fence. Having the fence itself actually reduces the required buffer as well. And then the general exceptions, or general required findings of fact for special exceptions state that it's so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected, that it will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it's located, that it conforms to all the provisions of the resolution for the zoning district, which is rural residential, and is necessary for public convenience in that location if applicable, meets the specific standards. And shall be located so as to be compatible with the surrounding area and provide safety to those using the facility. The first finding of fact is that it's so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. This does appear to be of minimal impact to that area. The road capacity is not overly utilized currently, so that's just the staff determination on that. That will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it's located. The property is on a collector road in a low density area. The impact would be minimal. The existing, and this is where we just added that additional note about the existing building cannot meet the setbacks, so additional plantings and 6-foot living privacy fence are proposed. Just on the impact it would have, particularly on that property to the road. And then the conforms to all applicable provisions of the resolution. The proposed use does appear to conform with the provisions of the county zoning resolution. And then number 4 shall be located so as to be compatible with the surrounding area and provide safety to those using the facility. The proposed activity, the retreat, is to be located on a 17.5-acre lot and does appear to generally be compatible with the surrounding area. The proposed architecture does seem to be in character, and the traffic impacts are anticipated to be minimal. So that opens it up for the example motions. The first one is to find that the conditions, the findings of fact are met for the site with at 1105, 1107, and 1109 Arch Lane in Castellan Springs, contingent upon the staff comments with all zoning, land disturbance, building permits, etc., attained properly through the Sumner County, and the site plan requirements met, and then of course it would be renewable every 2 years to ensure that it's conforming with the conditions by which it was approved. Or number 2, to deny a request for the special exception. Or number 3, to defer this item for 1 month in order to obtain additional information.
This is a public hearing. We have a few people signed up. Jennifer Stanton, do you care to speak?
Our property is adjacent to all of this, and we are approving.
And Mr. Shepherd?
Anything?
Richard M. Jones?
Just here to answer questions. You can come up.
State your name for the record, Mr. Jones.
Richard Jones, I'm Mr. Campbell's engineer, and I'm here to answer any questions that will be proposed.
Mr. Everton Campbell, you care to speak?
No, I allow.
Does anyone else care to speak on this request and is not signed up? Come forward and state your name if you care to speak. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. What's the will of the board? Or questions, Mr. Jones can answer for me.
So we had no neighbors that came to say anything, I couldn't hardly hear what was said. No neighbors sign up and speak on this.
Well, no, sir. I've asked them,
Okay, just make
no
sure.
one wrong.
Usually the first,
There are two of
ladies
us.
and gentlemen, the first row.
Our property runs
They
to
put
Jason.
on here, they do not talk.
Our property runs adjacent to the Campbell presentation, runs behind it. You can see it on the plat map on the bottom.
That tax shape piece there.
And we are approving of, we came to offer support.
Thank you.
It's the ways from our house. So, our house is that little great spot.
Thank you. They're the actors.
I have people wanting to speak, I'm gonna reopen the public hearing without objection. Sir, come forward.
Yes, sir. My name is Randy Crawford, and I also live on Hard Spring. I think that would be a good idea. I come to support my friend.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? I'm gonna reclose the public hearing. What's the will of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve, example motion number one.
We have a motion and a second to approve with example motion number one. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? So one abstention. Motion carries. Any other business before we vote? Make a motion. And a second. All in favor, say aye. We are adjourned.
I do just want to note to the board members here, unless we receive a submittal tomorrow by 2 o'clock, there will not be a second